Into our special meeting. Can you call the roll, please?
Jennifer Harden.
Here.
Belinda Grassi.
Here.
Scott Fishel.
Here.
Tom Hack.
Here.
Lori Knudsen.
Here. All right, so we have the facilities plan discussion and resolutions on the agenda. So we have a resolution requesting the fiscal officer to certify maximum maturity of bonds. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Gary, can you explain the need for this one?
So, as we've been having discussions leading up to this meeting for the past couple of years on the facilities plan, in order to move forward with a potential bond issue on the ballot, there's two resolutions that need to be passed in this meeting, which is the first one's this resolution to certify the maximum maturity of the bonds, and the second one's a resolution to declare necessity of issuing bonds. So this first resolution that we are currently on the table with basically is a certification that comes from me that bond counsel prepares. It says that, if we go on the ballot for a bond issue, the life of the bonds will be 37 years. The maximum you can do is 40, but when you're doing a bond issue for building and equipment and different things that go within, it lowers it from that 40 years down to about 37. So TDA, who's here today, they did a calculation of the useful life of those, of the assets, and then that's how this resolution gets prepared. So we did this back in July of 2016 for the first phase of the facilities plan, so this is kind of repeating this process for the second phase.
I just want to add that, the reason for this also, you can't borrow money for longer than the useful lives of the assets, and so that's what this basically in a nutshell will end up doing, is it fixes the amount of time that we can borrow money to the lives of the assets that are being borrowed against.
And it's one of those things where certainly a new facility we use much longer than 37 years. Because we have to follow certain parameters, and that's what we do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say that, the board is of not the same mind with regard to the facilities in phase two. Clearly Riverside has been around since 49, and but if you look at the building, there's really truly nothing structurally wrong with it. There are no space issues. The capacity of the building is adequate for our needs, and really when you look at it, we do need to make some improvements. There's no doubt to this building. The windows, the heating systems, both windows here and in John R. clearly need to be replaced. The heating systems need to be revamped. There's no doubt money needs to be put into the building, but there's not a need to replace Riverside. It may be a want to replace it, but there is nothing wrong with the existing building that could not be augmented with some investment, and the useful life of this building extended at least till its 100th anniversary in 2049. There's just, I guess I cannot approve something for the ballot, which is what we're driving towards, that I would not personally vote for. And this is an asset that, while, certainly every building is a time capsule to the time it was built. So certainly this reflects 1949 standards and other things, but there's fundamentally nothing wrong with this building that makes me believe that it is worth the investment of, when you include the interest, gosh, close to, I'm guessing $240 million overall when you include the principal and the interest. I can't justify that. If I were king of Riverside, which I know I'm not, there's no way that I would, if this is my building, I would vote to make improvements to it, not to tear it down and build new. So that is my perspective.
Just to kind of add to that, what we did a facilities plan with the public, with the teachers, the administration, with a lot of input from multiple people. And this was the second phase of that. So that's why we want to put it on, is so that we can let the public decide what's next step for us, and how do we move forward in the district to make sure that we have great facilities for our students. So
it's also a result of a couple of audits that were done by the OFCC, which said that our high school is in poor condition. And at this point, I think after Fairport builds their new complex, we'll have the oldest high school in Lake County as well. And if you look at the cost of renovating it, it's more than what, 2/3, Gary?
Yeah, my understanding is it was more than 2/3. I know TDA wanted to chime in, if you were to renovate to the Ohio School Design Manual, the cost would be 2/3, would exceed 2/3 of the cost of replacing that facility.
I'm just giving some of the reasons why we decided that that belonged on the second phase of a facility plan back in 2015. Regardless, you know, there are good points in the building as well, but there's some things that.
Right, and it's also, it's construction of a 6 through 12 campus. It's not just a high school, it's middle school and high school campus, which would allow Lamouth to be renovated into an elementary school and eliminate Melridge and or Buckeye.
Yeah, the original FCC audit said that we should, out of all of our buildings, and these are all the ones that appear up on the walls there, all the pictures, that we were to, the only building worth keeping was Lamouth. But in order to get there, you would have to pass quite a big bond, so we did it in steps. And if for anything, we promised the public that we would at least put it up and let them decide whether or not that they want a new complex here. But think about it, with all the buildings that we have, we've already decommissioned 4 of them, right? We have a couple more to go in Melridge, possibly holding on to Buckeye. Buckeye was actually rated as the second best building in our district next to Lamouth when the audits came out. It's also the second newest building than Lamouth.
Yeah, so I would just, so everybody, you know, remind the board and for everybody here who might be listening to this recording. So the OFCC, you know, that when they talk about remodeling, they talk about taking an existing building and bringing it up to current code. And quite frankly, in a scenario, let's just hypothetically go down a scenario where maybe the public does not ever approve the levy, right? Riverside endures for years to come because it's just the community does not want to pursue it. We're never going to stop utilizing Riverside in that scenario. There's nothing wrong with the building. We will continue to use it. I believe the OFCC rules for remodeling the building, trying to bring it up to snuff, that does not make sense to me. I think that, I guess to be more clear, trying to take an existing building, which again is a time capsule to the time it was built, and trying to bring it up to basically 2022 standards does not make sense to me. That's not money well invested. But taking the existing structure as it is and making improvements, and there are other things. I don't want to, you know, we have you know, administrators and some staff here as well. I understand the building needs improvements. There's no two ways about it, and I believe, but in my 10 years on the board, other than maintenance stuff and some things on the roof and whatever, I mean, we basically have put zero money into this. We did put some money into the auditorium, but we've, you know, in 10 years, we've basically put no money into this building above and beyond, you know, the maintenance that's needed. But I don't think that we should look at the yardstick of trying to make Riverside consistent with 2022 standards, and frankly, that's the way the rules are written. I think they're written by, you know, by a lot of architects and builders because they want to promote building new buildings as opposed to keeping old. And I believe that we can maintain, again, taking a derivation off that scenario where the voters never approve this, that we can still get to the point where we make improvements to this facility, make it more than useful, make it improve the environment. I think that we could add air conditioning. There was a point at one time during the last session of this board where I was interested in trying to find out what it would cost to do some of the improvements. The consensus of the board was not to pursue that, and that's fine. But I do believe that we can utilize this building, create amenities for the students and the staff, and frankly come up with a very useful asset that gets to its 100th anniversary and beyond potentially, without spending $240 million of taxpayer money.
So while I appreciate your opinion, that is one board member's opinion, I would also like to say that the administration has worked tirelessly at putting together a plan that this community might accept. And I believe that, it's my belief, you know, you've had your time to say your opinion. I believe that we've told the community that we would allow them to have the opportunity to vote on this and determine whether or not they want this as a community. It is not up to me as a board member to decide what it is that they want, and so my vote here at this table really isn't about what I think, it's about what we told the community that we would allow them to do. And I believe that voting yes on all of these resolutions is going to give the community the opportunity to do what we told them that we would allow them to do. I don't have the right to make that decision for the community. They have the right, that's one of the only things that they have the ability to actually do on their behalf is vote for levies. And to take that opportunity away from them, I think would be inappropriate of me as a board member, so.
But we had a lot of people through the years when we did our coffees and we did all of our meetings at the elementary schools. There was so many people that when we did this, that voted in part for phase one, knowing that phase two was coming because they wanted to see that change in their community. So to your point, Mrs. Grassi, we approved a 3-phase facility plan as a board, as a 5-0 vote. We approved that as something that we were gonna move forward with, and I think that as part of the commitment we made to our community, we owe it to them to allow them to vote on it. If they choose to vote it down, then I think that it's realistic to look at what it would look like to make a difference and make some renovations to this school, but I think it's only fair to the community to continue to do what we said we were gonna do, which is put it on the ballot and allow them to choose.
And I'd like to add, I believe the board has a responsibility to be responsible with the community. Things have changed. In the last meeting on this topic, there were a couple comments made, and one of those comments was that there are out-of-control inflation numbers. And this, I believe, was made by the bond person that was here. And another comment was made by Scott, who is involved in this process, works for the district. And he was asked, does he believe the increase from $126 million to $147 million, is that $147 million number accurate? His comment was, I believe it's low. We're in a situation of inflation. We are right now in a situation of unknown, and there's no way to project into the future what the known will be on supply chain issues. I'm in the roofing business. I've been in the roofing business for 43 years. And right now, if I want to put a roof on this building, on the flat roof, and I have to buy the ISO foam insulation board to put on there, I am being told right now that the earliest I could get that insulation would be October if I put my order in today. That's the earliest. And that's an unknown. Additionally, the screws and plates just to secure that board to the roof decking to put the roofing product on, there are 0 available out there right now. You cannot do a commercial industrial roof right now. What's going to happen in a year and a half? Nobody knows. So in talking with some people that have a lot more experience in building projects, and I'm talking into the billions, and there may be someone here that wants to make a public comment about that. It's their estimation, it could easily be 30 to 35% cost increase when the time comes. And I know that there was a little bit of a discussion about a hard and fast contract, that the contractor would not be able to add costs, but it's also my understanding that with Ohio law, they definitely would be able to add cost according to the law in certain situations. And so I think we are in a time frame right now where there are a lot of unknowns. The known that I have is I cannot go do a commercial industrial roof right now because I can't get the insulation board. And it's going to be October, let's just say it's a year out, and no one knows then. So I think it would be irresponsible to put something forth when we have no idea what's gonna happen.
Any other discussion? Okay. Can you call the roll?
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Nay.
Tom Heck.
Nay.
Motion carried. Next is the resolution declaring necessity of issuing bonds. So we have a motion to approve a resolution declaring the necessity of issuing bonds and submitting the question to the electors of the school district on the May 3rd, 2022 ballot. Can I get a second, please?
A second.
Thank you, Mrs. Harden. Any discussion?
Gary, this goes to the auditor and then it has to come back with the proper millage.
Yes, so this is the first resolution in order to put something on the ballot to certify what the millage will be. So that'll go to the county auditor's office. They'll send that back to us in a few days, and then at our next board meeting is when the final vote would be to actually put it on the ballot, would be the second resolution, which is called a resolution to proceed. So assuming if this one passes today, then we would vote on that second resolution at the next regular meeting, and then that would get, if that passes, then that gets filed with the county board of elections.
Any other discussion? All right, can you call the roll?
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Nay.
Tom Heck,
Nay.
Lori Kniske.
Aye. Motion carried. Next is finance and audit.
Sure, we have a consent agenda. We have some, motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through C.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on those? All right, then can we call the roll, Mr. Placco?
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried. Personnel.
Sure, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, just item A.
I'll second.
There's no discussion, can we call the roll, please?
Scott Fishel,
I'd like to back up to the discussion. Could that just be explained briefly for me, please?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
The resignation?
I was not following completely. I was still a little bit backwards. So could you just repeat that, please?
Sure, there's a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, item A.
essentially there's one resignation of a.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Should I go ahead and call the roll?
Sure, thank you.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, so closing, again, next meeting is January 27th at 7 PM. What is it? Motion to adjourn, sorry. Motion to adjourn at 8:44 AM. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Rossi. Can you call the roll, please?
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.